On Christmas Eve, December 24, 1999, what was supposed to be a short and ordinary flight turned into one of the most terrifying hostage crises in aviation history. Indian Airlines Flight IC-814, an Airbus A300 carrying 178 passengers, departed from Tribhuvan International Airport in Kathmandu, Nepal, bound for New Delhi. Families, honeymooners, and holiday travelers boarded the aircraft with excitement, unaware that 5 men among them were carrying weapons and a deadly plan. In the cockpit were Captain Devi Sharan, First Officer Rajinder Kumar, and Flight Engineer Anil Kumar Jaggia, completing routine checks for a journey expected to last just 90 minutes. Shortly after the aircraft entered Indian airspace and the seatbelt signs were switched off, the hijackers made their move. One of them stormed the cabin wearing a mask, grabbed a senior flight attendant, and announced that the plane was hijacked and that he was carrying a bomb. Guns were drawn, passengers were blindfolded, and panic spread through the cabin as men, women, and children realized their lives were no longer in their control. The hijackers forced their way into the cockpit and ordered Captain Sharan to turn the aircraft west and fly to Lahore, Pakistan, threatening to kill passengers if he refused. Trying to buy time, the captain claimed the plane did not have enough fuel, but the hijackers were well prepared and knew that Lahore was closer than the plane's alternate airport. Quietly and bravely, Captain Sharan set the transponder to code 7500, signaling a hijack to air traffic control, but help from the Indian authorities was slow and uncoordinated. As the aircraft approached the India-Pakistan border, Captain Sharan requested permission to land at Lahore, but Pakistan refused, shut down its airspace, turned off runway lights and navigation aids, and even threatened to shoot the aircraft down. The plane circled dangerously with fuel running low, flying blind over hostile territory, while the hijackers grew increasingly violent and impatient. With only minutes of fuel remaining, the captain saw a long line of lights in the distance and began descending, believing it to be the runway, only to realize in horror that it was a highway filled with cars, trucks, and people. At the last possible moment, fearing a catastrophic crash inside the city, Pakistan restored the runway lights and allowed the plane to land in Lahore. Despite desperate requests, no passengers were allowed to disembark, not even the injured, and after refueling, the aircraft was forced to leave Pakistani airspace immediately. During the ordeal, a young passenger, Rupin Kityal, returning from his honeymoon, was stabbed by the hijackers and later died from his injuries. The plane was refused entry by several countries before finally landing in Kandahar, Afghanistan, which at the time was under Taliban control. For the next 5 days, the passengers were held hostage in unbearable conditions, with limited food, overflowing toilets, sealed windows, and constant fear of death, while families in India pleaded for their loved ones' lives. Under immense pressure and with no viable military option, the Indian government ultimately agreed to the hijackers' demands and released 3 jailed terrorists in exchange for the safe return of the passengers. On December 31, 1999, the hostages were finally freed, but the consequences of that decision would echo for decades, as the released militants later became linked to major terrorist attacks, including the 2001 Indian Parliament attack and networks connected to 9/11. A flight meant to last just 1.5 hours became a journey of terror, sacrifice, and controversy, leaving behind a haunting question that still remains unanswered. Was saving innocent lives worth the price history would later pay?